A jeweler drops 2 rubies into the same cleaning solution. Ordinary stuff, the kind sitting in every workshop in America. One comes out glowing. The other comes out ruined, laced with white veins spreading through it like a honeycomb, and there is no fixing it. Ever. Both of them were sold as rubies. The wrecked one was mostly glass, and it came off the fine jewelry counter of a major department store with a price tag of $1,200. That is what this video is. 8 gemstones you should never buy at a chain store, because they are not what the tag says they are, and several of them will fall apart in ordinary life. Not from abuse, from lemon juice, from dish soap, from getting resized. And before we start, one piece of information makes everything else make sense, because it turns this from my opinion into documented fact. In 2018, the Federal Trade Commission rewrote the jewelry guide specifically because of this problem. Under the new rules, a stone filled or bound with any amount of glass or polymer can no longer be called simply a ruby or an emerald or turquoise. And here's the part that tells you how bad it got. Calling it a treated ruby is now explicitly not enough either. The required language is composite ruby, lead glass filled, special care required. A federal agency does not rewrite its guidelines and mandate that exact phrase because of a few isolated cases. The senior counsel at the industry's own watchdog said it plainly. Nobody was disclosing the special care requirements, so people took the stones home and they fell apart. So the tag is the whole game. Everything on this list can be caught by reading one line of small print, and almost nobody reads it. Let us count them down. Number 8. Anything labeled diamond accent. We start with the most common misleading phrase in American jewelry retail, and it is on shelves in every chain in the country. Diamond accent means the total diamond weight in the entire piece is under 1/4 of a carat, and very often under 1/10. Those stones are chip diamonds, the smallest and lowest grade material harvested as a byproduct when larger stones are cut. They are real diamonds. They are also functionally worth almost nothing, and on a finger they are close to invisible. Here's the trick, and it is purely linguistic. The word diamond is doing the selling. It appears on the tag, it appears in the description, and it justifies a price that the actual diamond content could never support. A piece marked diamond accent might sell for $200 while containing a few dollars of stone. The metal has value. The diamond is decoration on the price tag rather than on the ring. And there is a second layer to it. These pieces are usually built so that the tiny stones are clustered tightly together in a way that reads from a distance as one larger diamond. That is not an accident. It is the whole design brief. Step close, and the illusion collapses into a scatter of specks, but you were never meant to step close. You are meant to see the tag and the sparkle at the same time. The rule is simple. If the words diamond accent appear anywhere in the description, you are not buying a diamond piece. You are buying a metal piece with dust in it. If you want a diamond, buy a stone with a stated carat weight and a grading report. Number 7. Opal doublets and triplets. Opal is one of the most beautiful materials on earth and one of the most expensive by weight, which is exactly why the industry learned to stretch it. A doublet is a thin slice of genuine opal glued onto a dark backing, usually black glass or ironstone, so the color pops against the dark base. A triplet adds a clear cap of quartz or glass on top, so you get a thin opal layer sandwiched between 2 other materials. From directly above, both look like a solid opal. From the side, you can often see the flat seam where the layers meet, and that seam is the entire story. The problem is the glue. These stones are assembled with adhesive, and adhesive does not survive water. Submerge a doublet, wear it in the shower, leave it in a humid bathroom, and moisture creeps between the layers. The glue clouds, the layers begin to separate, and that fire you paid for goes gray and dead. It cannot be undone. Chain stores love them because a doublet costs a fraction of a solid opal and looks nearly identical in a display case, especially under a spotlight aimed straight down at it. Check the side profile. A solid opal shows natural color running irregularly all the way through the stone. A doublet shows a dead straight line where 2 materials meet. One more thing about the setting. Doublets and triplets are almost always set in a closed bezel that hides the sides of the stone, and now you know that the bezel is not only a design choice. If a shop will not let you see the profile of an opal, the profile is the reason. Number 6. Diffusion treated sapphire. Now to a treatment that sounds technical and harmless, and produces a stone that is only colored on the outside. In lattice diffusion, a pale or nearly colorless sapphire is heated together with coloring elements so that color penetrates the surface of the stone, sometimes just a shallow skin, sometimes deeper. The result is a vivid blue or orange sapphire made from material that was almost worthless before treatment. Here's why it belongs on this list. That color is a layer, not the stone. If the sapphire ever needs repolishing, if it chips and has to be recut, if it gets abraded down over decades of wear, you can polish straight through the color and expose the pale material underneath. Your blue sapphire comes back from the jeweler gray, and the value gap is enormous. A natural blue sapphire of good color and a diffusion treated one can look similar in a case and differ by a factor of 10 or more in what they are actually worth. The FTC requires this treatment to be disclosed because it is exactly the kind of thing that has a significant effect on value. Ask the direct question. Is the color diffusion treated? If the person behind the counter does not know, that answer is your answer. Number 5. Mystic topaz and the coated stones. Walk into any chain jewelry department and you will find them. Big stones flashing green, purple, blue, and gold all at once, priced remarkably low for their size, usually called mystic topaz or rainbow topaz. Here is what you are holding. It starts as ordinary colorless topaz, which is cheap and abundant. Then an ultra-thin metallic film, usually titanium oxide, is deposited onto the surface in a vacuum chamber. That film creates the rainbow through light interference, exactly the same physics that makes an oil slick shimmer on a puddle. 2 things follow. First, the color is on the outside, typically on the underside of the stone, which means it can be scratched, abraded, and worn through. The topaz underneath is hard, an 8 on the hardness scale, but the coating is not the topaz. Second, there is essentially no resale value because you own a coating, and a coating is a manufacturing step, not a rarity. Loose mystic topaz runs somewhere around $10 to $50 a carat, and that price is telling you the truth even when the display is not. Now, to be fair, this one is not a scandal. It is disclosed reasonably often, the base stone is real topaz, and if you like the look and know what you are buying, it is a fun piece of color. The problem is only ever the same one. People buy it thinking they bought a rare color instead of a factory finish, and they pay accordingly. Number 4, composite turquoise and dyed howlite. Turquoise is porous, soft, and often crumbly in its natural state, which means most of what reaches the market has been helped along. And the FTC names this one directly in the revised guidelines, right alongside ruby, which tells you how widespread it is. There are tiers here. Stabilized turquoise is genuine turquoise, infused with clear resin to harden it, and that is broadly accepted and fine. Below that sits composite or reconstituted turquoise, which is turquoise dust and fragments bound together with polymer, pressed into a block, then cut into stones. It is turquoise the way particle board is wood. The required wording under the new rules is composite turquoise, polymer bound. And at the bottom is the one this channel has flagged before, howlite. It is a naturally white stone that takes dye beautifully, and dyed blue. It is the single most common turquoise imitation on Earth. It sits in chain store cases constantly, often described only as a blue stone. 2 field checks. Real turquoise carries an irregular natural matrix, that web of dark veining, and it varies across the stone. Dyed howlite tends to show veining that is too gray, and looks drawn on. And look at drill holes and edges, because dye concentrates there and often shows a deeper color where the surface was broken. If even one of these has changed how you will read a jewelry tag, subscribe. Because the next 3 are where the money and the damage get serious, and number 1 is the stone that forced a federal agency to change the rules. Number 3, the resin-filled emerald. Now a harder one, because here the treatment is nearly universal, and the honest answer has 2 halves. Emerald forms with a heavy internal fracture network. It is simply the nature of the crystal, and the trade even has a romantic name for it, the jardin, the garden inside the stone. Because those fractures reach the surface, virtually every emerald on the market has been clarity enhanced by filling them with something that hides them, traditionally cedarwood oil and increasingly polymer resin. Light oiling is centuries old, accepted, and not a scandal. The problem is degree and disclosure. Heavy resin filling can hide a fracture network so extensive that without the filler, the stone would barely hold together, and the price is charged as though the clarity were natural. Then reality arrives. Oil dries out and leaks, so the stone slowly clouds over the years. Resin can yellow or go milky. Heat from a repair, an ultrasonic cleaner, even a hot dishwasher can drive the filler out. And the stone that comes back from that looks nothing like the one you bought. So the questions are specific. Has it been clarity enhanced, and to what degree? Minor, moderate, or significant? Any reputable seller can answer instantly, because it appears on lab reports as standard. A chain store counter frequently cannot answer at all, and that gap is the reason emerald is on this list. Number 2, dyed and polymer impregnated jade. Jade is the one where the grading language is completely opaque to a normal buyer, and that opacity is the whole business model. The trade sorts jadeite into letters. A jade is natural and untreated, simply cut and polished. B jade has been soaked in strong acid to bleach out brown impurities, which leaves the stone structurally weakened, then impregnated with polymer to restore some strength and a glassy look. C jade has been dyed to add color, and B plus C jade has had both done to it. Only A jade holds long-term value. B and C jade look convincing when new, and then time does its work. The polymer yellows and degrades over years. The surface loses its glow, and the color can fade unevenly. There is no repair, because the damage is not to the stone, it is what replaced the stone. None of those letters mean anything to a shopper, and that is exactly why the system survives. A chain store selling a bright green jade pendant for a few $100s is almost never selling a jade, because a jade of that color does not exist at that price. For anything above a token amount of money, jade needs a lab report. There is no field test that substitutes for one. Number 1, the composite ruby. And here it is. The stone at the center of the whole story, the reason the rules changed, and the single worst thing you can buy at a chain jewelry counter. Start with what it actually is. Take low-grade corundum, material so fractured it is nearly unsaleable, and fill the fissures with molten lead glass. The glass has a refractive index close to ruby, so the cracks visually vanish and a cloudy broken lump becomes a clear glowing red stone. The treatment swept the industry starting around 2005, and it arrived fast enough that parts of the trade immediately asked the laboratories to flag these stones separately. Wholesale prices for the resulting material run somewhere between a couple of dollars and $20 a carat, and think about what that means proportionally. In many of these stones, the glass is not a minor repair filling a hairline. It is a substantial share of what you are holding. You are buying a red object that is part corundum and part window. Now, the part that should end the conversation. GIA does not classify these as rubies. It calls stones held together by an artificial filler manufactured products. The American Gem Laboratories writes them up as composite ruby. The most respected gemological authority in the world is telling you that the thing on the tag is not the thing in the ring. And they are physically fragile in a way that ordinary life defeats. Lemon juice damages them. Household dish soap damages them. The pickling solution a jeweler uses while resizing a ring destroys them. Rhodium plating destroys them. The damage appears as a network of white spidery veins spreading through the stone, and it is not repairable. Some crumble when they are simply taken out of a setting. Then the retail reality that was documented publicly. A major department store confirmed that almost all of the ruby merchandise in its fine jewelry department is lead glass filled. Another national chain had to strip the word genuine from its tags after a news investigation found pieces mislabeled and admitted its own sales staff believed they were selling natural stones. A $1,200 ring was appraised at roughly half its price, and the material inside it was worth a rounding error. This is why the FTC stepped in, and why the mandated wording is now so specific. If you see the word composite on a red stone, or lead glass filled, or a ruby of impressive size at a price that feels like a gift, you are looking at this. Walk. Now, the tag itself, because every stone on this list lives or dies on one line of small print. Here is the decoder. Genuine means the material is what it claims to be, and it says nothing whatsoever about treatment or quality. The FTC specifically warns against misuse of genuine, real, natural, and precious, which tells you how often those words do work they should not. Created and laboratory grown mean the stone was grown in a factory. It is chemically real, and it costs a fraction of mined material. Not a scam at all, as long as you are not paying natural prices. Treated is the vaguest word on any tag, because it covers everything from an accepted permanent heat treatment to a coating that wipes off. Treated is not information. It is an invitation to ask a follow-up question. And composite, hybrid, or manufactured are the three words that should stop your hand. Under the current rules, those terms specifically mean the stone contains filler or binder, and they must be accompanied by a statement about special care. Those words on a tag are not a description of a gemstone. They are a warning label. Now the honest note, because a video like this could easily leave you with the wrong idea. Almost every colored stone in the world has been treated in some way, and most of it is completely fine. Heat treatment of sapphire and ruby is an accepted, permanent, centuries-old practice, and an untreated stone commands a premium precisely because treated ones are the norm. Irradiated blue topaz is stable and safe. Light oiling of emerald is traditional and expected. Stabilized turquoise is more wearable than raw turquoise. Treatment is not the villain here. The villain is a composite product priced as a solid stone, and a treatment that requires special care being sold to someone who is never told about the care. That is the line, and it runs straight through every item on this list. So what do you do? 3 things. First, read the entire tag, every word, including the small print on the back of the ticket. The information is frequently there, in the smallest type on the card, because printing it satisfies the rule while nobody reading it satisfies the sale. Second, ask 2 direct questions at the counter. Has this stone been treated? And if so, how? And does it require any special care? Those 2 questions are precisely what the rules were written around, and the reaction you get tells you as much as the answer does. Third, and this is the same answer this channel gives every week. For any colored stone above a token amount of money, take it to a good independent jeweler before you commit, or buy from one in the first place. They can identify a composite under a loop in seconds, they can tell you what the treatment means for how you will wear it, and they will be there in 10 years when the piece needs work. The chain store counter cannot do the first thing and will not be doing the last. Now tell me in the comments whether you have ever been burned by one of these. The ruby that clouded over, the opal that went gray, the turquoise that turned out to be something else. I read every one, and the stories in these comments help more people than the video does. This channel takes no sponsorships and no paid placements. No brand, no retailer, and no chain pays to be praised or buried here, and that independence is the only reason I can tell you which words on a tag are a warning label. If straight answers like this are why you keep coming back, the join button below makes you a member and keeps these breakdowns honest. The stone in the case is only ever as good as the line of small print beside it. Read that line before you read the price. I will see you in the next one.